Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it is time for my client Josh's vlog, and we started the week off with a football bar bench press, and he of course got 2 plates. Didn't really get a good pause there, but not quite as worried about that for this lifter because again, he competes in BJJ. For him, and I think it's again a point I always make, for those of us who lift, and lifting is our primary thing, meaning we are pursuing a strength sport. We are pursuing body composition. You know, even if you're a bodybuilder type goals, lifting is always going to be your primary training. It's going to be really high on your sport-specific training. And then, you know, the rest of us treat conditioning and stuff as our GPP, our general physical preparedness. You know, again, strength-based conditioning. However, in the case of a fighter like this, and I think this applies to any other athlete who competes in a sport that requires strength, that requires speed, in which we don't lift weights in competition, the lifting is your GPP, okay? And we have to make that distinction. It's important to make that distinction. You know, and I say that and people are like, but he trains just like your power lifters. He does, but with a little less total volume, right? A little less volume. All right. But yeah, he trains like a power lifter. Why? Because this sort of training gets you to potentially an elite level as a power lifter as a side effect. This is general strength training, strength and speed training. That's what conjugate is, to make you a better athlete across the board. You know, and people will say, well, that's not then specific to powerlifting, but it is, because powerlifting isn't that specific. It's just a test of brute strength. There's very little skill involved. Most of the skill involved is around just figuring out how to max with anything and the competition itself, right? Gaming competition. There's a skill to that. But in and of itself, it's just a test of brute strength. For lifters like this, or I should say athletes like this is the equivalent of their GPP. All the sled work and weight vest walking and tire flips and stuff that we may do as lifters, or even hit cardio, sprinting, oh, that's our GPP. This is their GPP. Okay? It is not the primary focus. However, it is done because we know that muscle mass and strength carries over to all sports. And this whole idea of being muscle bound for anyone who's a drug-free lifter is insane. It's never going to happen. Okay, never going to happen. Your body's not going to put enough muscle on for this to occur. But let's get over to the rest of the training, what he did here. So for his first supplemental press, we did dumbbell presses. Okay, we're just chasing hypertrophy. We're chasing range of motion on a lot of this stuff. And I picked the dumbbell presses for him right now because, again, he can't wider grip bench, so his chest tends to lag a little bit. And again, it's due to him being, you know, beat up from all the rolling and fighting he does. In fact, he's got a tournament coming up in about 9 days, a big match. So, you know, even the final half of that week, he's not going to be lifting. He's going to be resting. Okay, so we're chasing hypertrophy the best that we can based around what he can do. Because he can do those with a narrower grip, and we can still get that range of motion for the chest, front delts, everything else. All right, after that, we do inverted rows. We do upright rows with dumbbells, and he does band press downs. Okay, max effort lower this week. His gym just got a safety squat bar, so we maxed on it. Then, of course, we do good mornings. She have him do some goblet squats. We didn't get some of the footage of this stuff this week. Glute ham raises, band pull-throughs, all that. And again, I am having to watch his volume on these things. We have to be careful. All right, dynamic effort upper day, which we're looking at now. He speed benches against bands. But again, due to his shoulder limitations, we don't rotate grips. We work exclusively with the closed grip. All right, we do the closed grip against light bands. We use the bands that he has. Then he does dumbbell presses. We do inverted rows. Then, of course, we do some shoulder work with dumbbells. Again, I like to use a lot of dumbbells for him purely, again, in the case of it being slightly more sport-specific. They're a little harder to stabilize sometimes. So we want that. It's desirable. it's desirable for purposes of, again, just keeping him stable. The ability to have to deal with awkward loads, the ability to go into longer ranges of motion. Again, in his case, there might be some potential small benefits to that, so we utilize these tools. It doesn't mean that they're that big of a deal, and I want to make that very, very clear. It's just that because we have very limited exercise selection due to his recovery limits, because he practices and fights so much, we can only do so much in the gym. We can only squeeze a few accessory movements in. I do want them to be the best that we can do for his purposes, while still maximizing size and strength, because we can't afford to trade those things off. I always remind that to people too. Sometimes for your fighters, why don't you just worry about getting big and strong? So we're still using them as a tool to get big and strong. Right? You learn to punch and kick and grapple by actually practicing those things. You don't necessarily need to practice those things in the weight room. That's not why we're lifting. Any more than we need to worry about your max squat when you're doing your GPP, if you're a power lifter. Okay. This just gets him big, it gets him strong, it gets him explosive. But if we can get a little bit more out of it, we do it. So also, I've got him doing 5s right now for the speed work. You guys probably noticed that if you counted reps on the speed bench. So speed squats and speed pulls, the same thing. Of course, we run light bands for his speed boxes. But because of his setup at the gym, it's not easy for him to really set up bands at this particular gym for speed pulls, so we run straight weight. If he ever figures out how to get the band set up safely and quickly, we'll go ahead and start using bands on the speed pulls too. But as it stands, with the straight weight, we're probably fine for him. Again, we get bands on the other stuff. But I do want to highlight the point here that for fighters, I really like band work. I like to see some supplemental band work. You know, again, stuff like the band press downs. I like to see most of their speed work being done with bands if at all possible. I'll take chains as a secondary if they have them, but bands do a lot for fighters. And that's something I really like to highlight and emphasize when it comes to their dynamic effort work. Running heavy band tensions brings a lot to the table for people who are in contact and combat sports who need to hit another person fast. Okay, whether that's an actual fighting sport, whether it's rugby or American football, the idea is the same. I want them to have that high rate of force production so that when they contact someone else, they can do it fast. And they can follow through because, again, fighting against that progressive band tension teaches us to maintain a higher rate of force production and acceleration. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.